Hi guys, I'm back as promised for the next segment of Kelly's Eating for Health Moving Marathon. And so what I've done is just on the fly, I'm totally winging it. I don't have a totally put together food display for this, but this will do for now. And what this is I'm breaking down the whole fresh natural food section of my food continuum from worst to best and everything in between. And I'm going to go through each piece of this, okay? So here's the thing. For years, I have my 5 Eating for Health guidelines that I went over with you. And for years, people have saying, well, but what about animal protein? What about meat? Should we be eating meat or not eating meat? And so what I wanted to do, because this is an important issue, and I have changed my position on this. I was a vegetarian for 12 years, 3 of those a vegan. Then I went back to eating animal protein, okay? And for the last several years, I've been recommending that people eat animal protein and animal products. And now I'm changing that. I'm changing that position. I have come to believe that animals and animal products are inferior foods. Now, they're technically still foods because they will keep you alive, okay? But I believe it's the least or the worst choice when it comes to the whole fresh natural foods. This is what I've come to believe. And even if you're getting them grass-fed or cage-free, all of that, whatever that stuff is, hormone, antibiotic-free, whatever, they're still the least superior foods, okay? And what I want to do is I want to talk about that for a second, because a lot of people want to argue with that, say, oh, it's natural to be eating animals, etc. And I really believe that it's not. I believe that we started eating, and I'm not an anthropologist and I don't know all the history of this, but I think it's wise to start thinking about, I'm always telling people, think about what's natural when it comes to what you're eating. What would you be eating in a natural environment as a human? If you didn't have the store to go to, if you lived out in the forest or the jungle in a tropical environment? What would you be eating? And think about what's natural, and also think about what makes sense. I think that thinking about what's natural and what makes sense is more important than a gazillion of these other, modern day studies and science that's out there. Because science and studies can be made to, can be altered to say whatever we want them to say to support any position that we have. And I think that they all start getting conflicting, and I think it's wiser to pull back and get back to the basics and think about what's natural and what makes sense. So as human beings, we originated in the tropical regions. The tropical regions are, within whatever degrees of latitude of the equator, which is what gets the most sun. We don't have, we're not like polar bears that have big, thick fur coats. We belong in a tropical environment where the sun is, where we would stay warm. And what grows in tropical environments primarily is fruit. It's everywhere. Beautiful, colorful, sweet fruit. And I believe that as we moved to the higher latitudes, as we moved north and south, closer to the poles, the weather starts getting colder. And we don't have the tropical fruits growing. In fact, you don't have a growing season for a good part of the year in a lot of places. And so I believe that we started eating animal protein as an adaptation to moving into the other latitudes away from the tropical regions, okay? It just makes sense. That would just make sense. And so that's when we started eating the animal protein. because when you think about it, animal protein, it takes a lot of work to get animal protein, okay? You have to chase it down or have some kind of trap. You have to have some kind of a tool or, a spear, a weapon to kill it. You have to, it's a lot of work as compared to, for example, I know I'm being very simplistic, but you know what? We need to start being simplistic. Start thinking about what's natural, what makes sense. And simple is what makes sense. So as opposed to fruit in the tropical regions, it would literally be right there to pick right off the tree. It would be colorful. We just take it off the tree and take a bite. There's no work involved. It's sweet. It's full of water, so it's very hydrating. It comes in its own little, its own little package. You can carry it around. I actually did a whole other little video that I'll put a link to for why I believe that fruit is a superior food. So animal protein would take a lot of work. And you wouldn't really need it if you were in a tropical environment because you'd have all kinds of delicious fruit available. It probably wouldn't even come to your mind to be chasing after, the tiger or the boa constrictor or something that was going, through the trees. I had a long-held belief, as I was saying, that people should be eating animal protein and that it was, healthier for them, it would keep them strong. And so now I'm letting go. I'm publicly announcing that I'm letting go of that belief because I don't believe that it's true. And I want to, I'm saying that I'm kind of making a thing about it because, I want to say, like, from this day forward, for about the past year and a half, I, went vegetarian again, and then I'm almost vegan at this point. I'm saying 95 to 98% vegan. And the reason why I say that is out of respect for vegans, okay? Because I've been listening. I'm in a lot of vegan groups on Facebook, and I have, hardcore vegan friends. And out of respect for them and the definition of vegan, I don't want to say I'm, a full-out vegan. Because the definition of vegan, according to the Oxford English Dictionary, which is the standard, that upholds the standard for all English dictionaries, a vegan is someone who doesn't consume animal products or use animal products. Okay, so that means if you're really a vegan, 100% vegan, not only are you not eating any animal products, but you're also not wearing leather boots and leather shoes and taking supplements that are derived from animals, or using skincare products. And I'm not quite there yet, okay? I'm moving in that direction, but you know what? I've been making the transition over the last year. I still have leather boots, and now I've been scrutinizing all my skincare ingredients and my makeup to make sure that they're vegan, that they're cruelty free, and they're vegan. And so I'm not quite there yet, but I am moving in that direction. And so what I'm saying is I'm a Kelitarian. So I would say a Kelitarian, get it, like Kelly, Kelitarian? A Kelitarian, at this point I'll make up, I'll have like some kind of official definition, but I'm going to say that a Kelitarian is somebody who doesn't eat animal protein, or I'm going to say doesn't consciously eat animal protein, because you know what, sometimes it's in things like, I went to a Thai restaurant a couple weeks ago, and they have fish sauce in some of their, in some of their sauces. Well, I don't, I'm not going to, at this point in my life, and that may change, I'm not going to go to that level of scrutinizing my food. If there happens to be, fish sauce in something, or eggs in something, and I don't know about it, I'm not going to worry about it. A Kelitarian is also somebody who's very conscious of my 5 Eating for Health guidelines and following the 5 Eating for Health guidelines. So I get that many vegans are doing it for the animals, and I'm all for that, but you know what? I want you guys to do it for yourselves too. I want you to be a calitarian and eat, follow the Eating for Health guidelines as well, because if you want to be out there fighting for and supporting the animals, you need to be clear and strong within yourself. And if you're eating the crappy diet like I was when I was a vegan and a vegetarian, and I wasn't eating animal protein, but I was still eating a lot of crap, and I see a lot of vegans and vegetarians doing that, and you will do so much better personally for yourself and also for other people if you follow my 5 Eating for Health guidelines and start eating the whole, fresh, natural foods more. You're going to be clearer and stronger, and it's going to help everybody. So right now, my loose definition of a calitarian is somebody who's not consciously eating animal products, who is making the transition to be a vegan or as close as possible to a vegan, scrutinizing their skincare products, their supplements, and also, I'm moving away. I can't see that I'm going to be buying leather anymore, but right now I'm not going to go out and buy all new stuff. So I'm still going to use my leather stuff that I have, and as I transition away from those things, I'll be getting vegan clothing items and, purses and things as well. So I've gone through a lot of transitions, and one of which I just told you was to become a vegetarian, a calitarian again. And a big part of what transpired around that and led me to that place is, I was on Facebook and I was seeing a lot of posts from my vegan friends, and I also, have vegan friends, and they were, would kind of try to encourage me to be a vegan, and I just kind of blow them off, okay? So on Facebook, I was seeing a lot of video clips about what's going on with the animals. Now, I have to tell you, back in the day, because back when I first became a vegetarian and vegan, it was like 1988. I'm old, remember? We didn't have Facebook. We didn't have the internet. I didn't see that kind of stuff, okay? I knew it existed. I don't even remember reading about it really. But here's the thing. On the internet now, it's all over the place. And when I first, started seeing it on Facebook from my vegan friends, I would just skip past it really quickly. I'd be, ugh, I don't want to see that. And then I would, unfriend those people, or, make it so that their posts wouldn't come into my news feed on Facebook. And at some point I started thinking about that, because I had a few people kind of say to me, you really need to start looking at what's going on with the animals, and so finally I started kind of seeing a few things. And at one point what I realized, and this is for the carnivores, my Omni friends, the meat eater people, this is what I would like to invite you to do too. At some point I was seeing this stuff, and I just quickly go past it. I didn't want to see it. Didn't want to see it. I was in this mindset of thinking, well, it's a necessary evil, okay, and I don't want to know about it, kind of a thing. Put my head in the sand. And at some point, I started seeing stuff, and I thought to myself, you know what? If I can't even look at this stuff, I can't even look at this for 30 seconds because it's so disgusting. Why am I eating it? Why am I putting it in my body? And so I really want to invite, as I said, the meat eating people, my paleo people, I really want to invite you to start considering that, because what is going on, and I'll tell you what, I have not, and I still won't watch that stuff. I can't. I'm empathic. I'm very sensitive. When I see that stuff, it's very disturbing to me. It will leave a picture in my mind for, literally for years to come. And so I still can't look at it. But what I'm going to invite you to do is to think about that and look at some of the stuff if you can. If you're somebody who can stomach that, so to speak, then you know, look at it. And there's two movies that I keep hearing from my vegan friends. One is called Earthlings, and the other one is called Cowspiracy. And those two, Earthlings, well, I think they're both pretty bad, but Earthlings I think is the worst. And you know, even hardcore vegans I know will say, well, I could only watch 10 minutes of it. It was, you know, so disturbing. So what I'm going to say is, please watch those movies if you can, or at least watch some of the clips that the vegans are circulating around that make you sick, because that's what you're doing. That's what you're putting into your body and absorbing. And you know, the thing is that there's something energetically going on as well. You know, if you are what you eat, and I know I'm going to get a little gross for a minute, but just, you know, bear with me, because you know what I'm going to say to you isn't even a fraction as gross as what is going on, okay? But if you are what you eat, and you're eating animals in today's completely inhuman way of treating them, if you are what you eat, you are a dead, tortured animal. Like, you know, I'm sorry, but think about that. You know, if that's what you're eating, and if you build the cells of your body from what you're eating, basically you're a dead, tortured animal. Ew. I would much rather be a piece of sweet, juicy fruit. Seriously, you know, think about it. I just want you to start thinking about that. Now, okay, so that said, I believe that animals and animal protein are you know, out of our whole, fresh, natural foods. Okay, they're inferior. Okay. Then next up, you would have your legumes, your beans. Okay. So if your beans are sprouted and they're, you know, they have some life to them and you can easily, you know, eat them and chew them, that would be great. But once you start getting into beans when they're hard and you need to cook them, once again, that's moving away from what would be most natural, because now all of a sudden, you know, you have to have fire, you have to cook beans and legumes for a long time in order for them, you know, to be cooked and edible. And that's something to consider about soy as well. Soy is one of the common food allergens because it has an enzyme inhibitor which prevents it from being adequately digested. But it's also a bean and a legume. And soybeans, I don't have any right now, but they're really hard. And so you have to cook them for a long time in order to be able to eat them. And you know what? Nobody's eating, you know, just like plain soybeans. Edamame would be different. That's, you know, that's more along kind of the sprouted lines of, you know, of beans where they're fresh and edible, you know, at the, you know, the way that they are, not having to be cooked. So, so that once again, I would say that beans are an inferior food if we're on here, but it's much better than the animal protein. And then you move into the grains. Now, once again, the grains, they take some effort. You've got to harvest it, you've got to cook it, and then within the grains, they're going to be, you know, your gluten grains, which are allergenic. Your wheat is allergenic. It's one of the most common food allergens. And wheat, you know, once again, you know, there's whole books written about wheat and wheat belly, and now the wheat has been hybridized and has the glyphosate on it and the pesticide, you know, all that kind of stuff. So that's a whole other animal, and people are eating it, you know, way too much. And I will do a whole program on food allergies and sensitivities, my 4th Eating for Health guideline at some point. But just know that, you know, but grains are still, they're much easier to digest and assimilate than the beans. And then, unless they're sprouted, sprouted beans are great, like, you know, sprouted mung beans, that kind of thing. And then you move into the seeds, nuts and seeds. So nuts and seeds, you know, basically you can, you know, just pick them and eat them. You don't have to do anything with them. I think I think nuts and seeds are a great choice if you have a congested liver, gallbladder, you may have problems digesting them, and you know, it's really about it's not so much about what you eat as what you digest. So you want to make sure that, you know, if you're not digesting them properly, it may be something that you want to leave out until your system is a little clearer and stronger and you're able to you know, digest them better. Or you can soak them so that they're, you know, soak them overnight and then they're easier to digest that way. Helps to take out the phytic acid. You can make crispy nuts like the Weston Price people do, where you basically dehydrate the nuts, and that makes them much easier to digest. So there's different things that you can do with the nuts and seeds as well. And then moving along in our continuum from worst to best, then I would say, you know, you have the vegetables and the root vegetables. So root vegetables, you're going to have to dig them up. You wouldn't see them as easily as you would the, you know, the nuts and seeds and the fruits. In fact, maybe these, yeah, these are here. These could be here. Like I said, this is on the fly. Just bear with me. But just, you know, get the general idea of this. And then you would have your above ground vegetables, which would be readily available. And then you would have your fruits, okay? Now fruits, as I said, I have a whole other little video about why I believe that fruits are the superior food, but just in a nutshell, you know, fruits have everything we need. They're hydrating, they come in their own package, they're sweet, they give us energy, and then they also have the healthy fats, you know, like avocados. Avocados are a fruit. Olives and olive oil, fruit. Cucumber, tomatoes, chilies, peppers, they're all fruits. And coconut, let's not forget coconut. Coconut is one of my all-time favorite foods. In fact, I think that if there were any one food in the world, you know, if like all the other food were wiped out tomorrow, except for coconut, I think you could literally live off of coconut. So anyway, I'm kind of giving that to you in a nutshell. Hopefully that all made sense. And the thing about fruit is we have this funny thing going on these days, and I believe this is one of the reasons that we have so many problems in this country today, is because nobody's eating fruit anymore. Everybody got afraid of fruit. And for a long time I used to say, you know, I thought that vegetables were the superior food, and I was telling people to eat lots of vegetables and minimal fruit because they're high in sugar. But the thing is that it's naturally occurring sugar, and they have all kinds of enzymes. They're also very antimicrobial. So I believe that everybody can benefit from eating a good amount of fruit, and increasingly more fruit in the American diet. But you have to do it properly. You can't just go from this, or, you know, over here from the other video, the processed foods. You can't go from eating 90% of fake foods and then switch over and start eating tons of fruit. And the reason why is because your system is going to start cleansing. You know, you're going to start moving all kinds of parasites, amoebas, worms, bacteria, viruses, mucus. You're going to start moving all of that stuff out of your system when you start eating the fruit, and it could cause you problems initially. So it's good to, you know, once again, transition slowly. And then also you want to be having fruit on an empty stomach. You don't want to be putting it on top of and mixing it with all these other foods, because fruit digests through your system very quickly, and it requires different enzymes than the other foods. So it's always best eaten alone. And oh, that was the other thing I want to tell you. I'm also in a lot of groups of people that are dealing with parasites, and hello, you know, as long as I'm being gross about things, everybody has parasites in this country, okay? Especially if you've been eating the animal protein. Hello, these are full of parasites. And you know, the sushi and the, you know, the raw animal protein people are starting to eat now a lot. They're full of parasites and amoebas and worms. And fruit actually helps purge parasites and worms, okay? So that's another thing that people can run into when they start eating the fruit is they start expelling worms and parasites, and they're not feeling so good because they're moving that stuff out, which is ultimately a good thing. But it can mean that they're having, detox symptoms. Maybe they have low energy, or they have headaches, or they get diarrhea, whatever it might be. So I see people in the parasite groups that I'm in, and they're continuing to eat the animal protein, which, you know what, you guys, if you're continuing to eat the animal protein, you are just always putting more parasites in your system and feeding the stuff that's already in there. And there's this popular notion that fruit feeds parasites and worms, and it's not true. Almost all fruits have some kind of antimicrobial properties. In fact, they have the most antimicrobial, anti-parasitic properties of any of the foods. Okay, so that's just not true. Fruit is not feeding the parasites and the worms. It's just not. And I see so many people trying to get rid of the rope worms and whatever it is, all different kinds of parasites, and they're still eating the animal protein, and they're taking tons and tons of different supplements. And I just want you guys to know that I promise you, promise you, that if you start moving away from the animal protein and start moving away from a lot of those supplements too that people are taking, people are spending all this money on supplements and expensive animal protein when they could be spending a lot less time and effort and money by moving over to the superior foods, especially the fruit. And one of the biggest parasite killers is, this is my coconut. I actually have a whole nother video on coconut that you can watch, but this is just what I had in my kitchen for now. Like I told you, I'm moving. Coconut oil is really, really high in anti-parasitical properties. It kills, the caprylic acid or the lauric acid. Don't mind me. It's now after 10 o'clock. This is 3 hours for me doing the moving marathon. So my brain's starting to go. But coconut, one of the best parasite killers on the planet. In fact, you can do a fast with only coconut oil. Dr. Bruce Fife has it outlined in his book, Coconut Cures. And basically you just have coconut oil. And it's it's a really strong parasite purge. It's something that you'd want to, like I've been saying all along, it's something that you'd want to work up to, because you can get really bad detox symptoms. But I'll tell you what, it's a much better choice than, eating all this expensive animal protein, which is just contributing to the problem, or, recreating it, and taking all these really expensive supplements that can cause problems too, with these really potent supplements that people are taking with really potent herbs in them that you would never in a natural environment have, have to the degree that you can have them buying them off the shelf. It's really a completely unnatural way to go, and I've been doing that for years, so I'm guilty of that myself. But I just want to put that out there, and I am, as part of my new life and my living the laptop lifestyle, is I am going to be doing a parasite purge, eating only parasite purging fruit. I'm going to be doing that along with some other stuff, so that's something I'll be sharing with you coming up in about 3 weeks. I'm going to be doing that whole thing along with colonics and liver gallbladder flushes, and I'm going to be sharing all that stuff with you, because all of that's the crux of everybody's disease today, of most people's disease, is the parasites, the worms, the candida, all this stuff in your gut. And you know what, I'll tell you something too, you guys. When I was taking, like all kinds of supplements and eating the animal protein and everything, my stomach, I was still really thin like I am now, but I had this poochy stomach that just like pooched out. And I'll tell you, it has been so flat ever since I stopped eating the animal protein and I started eating lots and lots of fruit. Now, I also do coffee enemas pretty much every day these days, which of course that helps too. But even when I was still doing the animal protein and doing all these, crazy supplements and stuff, I still had the poochy tummy. So, even though I was doing the coffee enemas, it's not just from doing the enemas. Now, once again, I'm talking about all kinds of gross stuff. Now I'm mentioning coffee enemas, and you know what? Here's the thing. People want to say, oh, parasites, worms, coffee enemas, ew, that's really gross. And here they are eating this. The animal protein that comes from animals that have been treated just horrifically, like I can't even fathom it or think about it. And that's what's sitting in your gut. And you know what? I would much rather have a flat gut and do coffee enemas and have a clean gut than to have a gut full of, sorry, I have to say it again, a gut full of dead, tortured animals and worms and parasites from them. Okay, so let's start rethinking things. We need to start, I believe, as a society, we need to start changing the conversation. And speaking of cancer, which I was mentioning in the other video, Hulda Clark is known for bringing to light the fact that parasites are the underlying factor in most diseases I was talking about, and especially cancer. In fact, there's many people believe that parasites and worms are the cause of cancer. Now, there's obviously different levels and complexities around that, but this is not the animal protein or eating the animals that on an energetic level are, horrifically tortured. That just can't be good for you on any level, energetically, physically. It's just not a good way to go. So I'm starting to ramble and run out of steam, as you're probably noticing. So thanks for bearing with me. That's kind of my first public announcement about becoming a Kelitarian and really urging people to really think about the animal protein. And I'll tell you what. The very least that we can do as a society is to start demanding that at least the practices that they're doing with the slaughterhouses and all this stuff are more humane. There's a huge difference between Native Americans that were out on the plains that were hunting a buffalo and using every part of it and treating it with great spiritual reverence and praying over it and thanking it. That's a completely different way of dealing with animals and their consumption, and use than what is going on today. So I believe that's the very least that we could be advocating for, and hopefully you're going to think about it, on another level and really start to see that having to kill something to stay alive really doesn't quite make sense and isn't natural. So I'm going to leave you with that. Bye for now. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more. Bye for now.